the ultimate dream and the target is really glasses with the projector in the temple of the glasses that is shining the light kind of in front of the eye, and on the lens is a holographic film. It's a normal lens. We really buy the lens in the shop. We put that film on that inner surface and record hologram.
Welcome to a new episode of XR and AI Spotlight, the show where we give the stage to the founders and makers who are pushing the boundaries of XR and AI. My name is Gabriele Romagnoli, I'm your host, and I'm here today with Tomas Sluka. Tomas worked as a research engineer at CERN on the development of electronic nano-devices. During his scientific career, he co-authored over 50 scientific papers, 10 patent applications, and he is now the CEO and co-founder of CREAL, a Swiss startup that developed and brought to market a transformative type of display made for augmented reality that solves the problem of eye comfort and simulates how the human eye actually sees and focuses on near and far objects. And it brings a new level of immersion that was literally never seen before. So stay with us because we will discuss the challenges of delivering comfortable and believable augmented reality to the human eye.
It's because vast majority of everything we have ever received from the reality to our brain came through the eyes. It's like 90% of all of it. And the statistics also show that in the modern world, we spend more than 50% of our time already looking at the screens. Just measure your time. You will notice you are looking at the display more than at reality. And the augmented reality is promising to really blend the digital information more naturally to our normal environment. So the desire is there, the vision of how it should work is there, but it's extremely difficult to deliver it.
What are the properties of high quality content for augmented reality?
That everybody thinks that it's the field of view, that it doesn't have edges and it's the high resolution and similar. But I think what is underestimated and what is maybe even most important is that
and how the rise of artificial intelligence is accelerating and shaping the development of augmented reality glasses.
Everybody was expecting, even the people which are skeptical, were expecting that some AR will come already years ago. It really is way more difficult, especially the displays simply don't work, drain battery or something like that. And the second thing which happened is that AI came much earlier than even the most optimistic people saw. And the current trend and the vision, and I fully support that vision, is that the AR glasses will be the absolutely main human AI interface because they can see with us, right? Put things into context. You can't have a better interface than that.
But before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsor Meshi, who made this episode possible. Meshi is a real powerhouse for generating 3D assets with AI. You can start with a simple text or image prompt and get high-quality, stylized model in just a minute. One feature that I personally love is the ability to create stylized textures for any mesh, with or without UV, and since the release of Meshing 2.5, Pro users can even edit only section of the generated textures with just a text prompt. Try it out, go to meshi.ai, start the 7 days trial, and after that, use the code XRAI20 to get 20% off your subscription. And now it's time to roll the title and welcome Tomas under the spotlight. Tomas, it is really great to have you here.
Thanks a lot, Gabriele. It's really a pleasure to be here.
So it has been years that we have been promised to wear a device that is in the form factor of glasses that when we wear allows us to experience digital content, like if it was portrayed in front of our own eyes. Yet we are still not there. What are the challenges, technological challenges, or more that are making this future so hard to reach?
Yeah, I would say first, the problem is more general, that the industry and individuals completely underestimated how big challenge is to bring so immersive or so active device on something so small as a glasses. So the vision was obvious. We all know how the augmented reality should work, basically something that looks maximally as the normal glasses and does the same as a Vision Pro or more. So that's just kind of a huge challenge to combine these two things together. But there was obvious desire to do that. Why there was so many tens of billions of dollars and so many years and failures experienced during that process, and no one is giving up? Well, the reason is that it is extremely important. And here I wanted to stress that why the communication devices, the displays, and something that is really connecting the digital world with the reality are so important. It's because vast majority of everything we have ever received from the reality to our brain came through the eyes. It's like 90% of all of it. And the statistics also show that in the modern world, we spend more than 50% of our time already looking at the screens. Just measure your time. You will notice you are looking at the display more than at reality. And the augmented reality is promising to really blend digital information more naturally to our kind of a normal environment. So the desire is there, the vision of how it should work is there, but it's extremely difficult to deliver it. And there is a number of problems to be solved. Kind of that form factor versus how much it does is the one. It goes exactly against each other. And then there are other problems which will become gradually more and more obvious with the time. And you probably ask it because we are solving one of them. And that problem is that all the 3D visualization you get today is incomplete. It basically just shows two flat magnified screens in front of you, give you the 3D experience because our two-eye vision, but it ignores other depth cues, the one-eye vision. And whenever we have a conflict between inputs, it's like a seasickness or the motion sickness. So the brain kind of assumes you may be poisoned. And this problem has to be solved as well on the way to the ultimate AR. And that's what we are doing.
So, and let's also try to clarify. So what you're saying is that one thing is stereoscopic, right? The fact that you have this basically, like when we see a 3D movie, right? This side-by-side view that gives the impression that the image in front of us is 3D, right? That's
Yes.
one of the things that it's been, let's say, solved by current technology, right? Because we have two screens that can project two images. The other one instead is the depth or the, let's say, blurriness of a faraway object when I focus on something close to my eyes, for example, or the other way around.
Yes.
And what you're saying is basically that when my brain sees something different from what it expects, being that these objects do not blur as they should, let's say, then that is the reason that is triggering one of the factors that is causing motion sickness.
Yes, it's maybe not called motion sickness, just to separate it from that real, but exactly that's that entirely unsolved problem today, and it's very important. And everyone can actually experience it right now on its own eyes, or you, if you close one eye and try to touch some far objects with your hand that is close to your face. When you focus on that finger, you will notice that everything far is blurred. If it is 2 meters, it's completely blurred. You can't read anything, you don't see the face, and vice versa. And that's exactly what you get today. The display is usually 2 meters far, so when you want to touch something, right in front of your face, it will be completely blurred. I mean, if you focus on your hands. But what the brain is doing is trying to actually autofocus on that wrong distance. And that's exactly that seasickness element, right? You're stimulating wrongly your inputs. This is often happen when you are drunk or poisoned, and we know what the brain is doing with that. With
right. Yes, absolutely. So being that a problem, right? Or how are currently company addressing it? Because we have seen mixed reality devices like the Quest 3, that, by the way, has other problems, warping and so on. Let's not talk about all the issues that there is with that. Then there is Vision Pro, of course, that is taking a more sophisticated approach with better outcome. Of course, let's not forget what's been done in augmented reality, like the Magic Leap 2, HoloLens, and all those others that are tackling this augmentation of our physical world with digital content. So maybe can you give us an impression, since your background and all your research, of how are companies addressing this? And also maybe if there are less known players that are also doing something in this direction.
Yes. So first, many devices in the couple of years back didn't have sufficient resolution to actually have problem with that. So, it just was not really visible because the resolution was not sufficiently good. But now it is coming. The resolution is getting, let's say, to 75% of the eye resolution, like 40 pixels per degree. And then it already starts playing a role. And the main solution, in quotation marks, is to avoid the problem by displaying things far. So if you Google Microsoft HoloLens Comfort, you will see the web page which is showing display things 2 meters far, not closer than 1.2 meters far. Otherwise, it will become uncomfortable. So it's really this type of solution. If you look at Apple Vision Pro, at least what I saw, a lot of these displays are really far. They are outside of your reach. And if the objects get closer, maybe this can be hacked or somehow disabled, but it kind of becomes transparent and disappears. Another was Magic Leap 1 that actually had 2 depth planes. So one was 50 centimeters, second was, I think, 1.6 meter. And you are switching between these two depending on actually eye tracking. So when you looked closer, the closer the display was used and farther display. But they nevertheless clipped the content at some 37 centimeters, which is still quite far. So, just recognize that problem is there. And on the market, there is, on kind of the at least mainstream market, there is no other solution than this kind of avoiding it or ignoring it. But there is a lot of things in development. So Meta Reality Labs is not hiding. They work on some varifocal solutions, either really lens moving versus the display, which is massively magnified, with motors, or somehow electro-optically with very specific liquid crystals. Other companies, Lightspace Technologies, they have like 4 depth planes, really switched quickly. And there is a whole kind of field of holography, trying really to create ultimate holographic image that will have all of it. The downside is it is very difficult to do it sufficiently good at the practical level. It will happen at one point, but it may take time. And we have another solution.
Exactly. So my question then is how does CREAL actually tackles this? Can you explain for layman terms for us folks that are not that much into it, but they still are curious and are wondering how that could solve? How can you simulate or recreate the feeling of depth?
Yeah. So maybe first I should mention that one of the requirements I put for myself when thinking about the solution was that it must be doable, that it must be practical, it must be possible to make a product with it that has the required quality. And that solution, which appeared to be the right one for me at least, was really using already kind of existing type of display. It's just very fast. I will not go into more details, but it's a modulator. You shine on it and it flash image or reflects image from it, but it does it at several kilohertz, like 100 times faster than conventional displays. But there is only simple color information. So you really just need to have many of them to create that color. And at the end is the same amount of information. So this kind of the tool we have, and how we create the depth. Maybe the best way to start is, the two eyes sense the depth because they have slightly different viewpoints, a little bit from the left and a little bit from the right. So they see slightly different image, right? Like shifted. But one eye sees the same, just that kind of the parallax is smaller, like left part of the pupil and right part of the pupil sees a slightly different angle of what is in front of you and up and down. And that's exactly what we do. So we project the images, there's many images in a very fast sequence through slightly different areas around the pupil, and each time provides slightly different image. Maybe you can imagine it like you take a paper or aluminum foil and you make one hole in it, second hole, third, you make holes, and at the end you look through it and you will see that you actually see normally. But through each of these holes, you see slightly different image.
Right.
And that's exactly what we do. And we bounce it to the eye through holographic film, which is just totally transparent, beautiful. It's on the lens.
Interesting. So, because this brings up another fact, right? You just said that this is like transparent. So it's attached on a lens. So now that you gave us an impression of how this technology works, how does it look?
So first, we are a display technology company, and that end product can have many different forms. So it's a little bit the choice, but I will then mention that ultimate one we are targeting. The first one is really a huge box, and we are actually selling it to vision care companies that use the display for testing your eyes and so on. We have a pretty bulky VR headset, but it's again unique because we can there apply corrections, really display kind of like very different lenses on your eyes only digitally. And the ultimate dream and the target is really glasses with the projector in the temple of the glasses that is shining the light kind of in front of the eye, and on the lens is a holographic film. So it's a normal lens. We really buy the lens in the shop, let it cut, or it could be actually really your glasses. We put that film on that inner surface and record hologram. It's not a hologram that would have image. It's a hologram that just does a job for us. And the job it does is that it bounces that light to the eye as we want. And the beauty of that film is that it does it only with that light which we project, which is just, 3 colors. But for all the other light, it's transparent. So it just looks like a clear glass. It's very difficult actually to see there is anything. So that's one of the specific advantages of our tech, that it's compatible with that.
And you bring up a very important point, right? That is indeed, that I think can be bundled in one term, that is basically social acceptance, right? Because the fact is that everybody, you have seen all these crazy Vision Pro videos when people are in the street and doing crazy gestures. Like, the point is, how can we move this into a form factor that is actually really socially accepted, right? Where you do not look weird, and when the people around you also don't look at you weird. So how do you think does social acceptance, what role does it play when it's about bringing this vision that you just mentioned to reality?
So for consumer AR glasses, it's just massively important, because eyewear already today is a fashion industry on the first place. The eye care on the second place, in fact. Really, it's a part of people's identity, right? It's on your face. So it will be actually a fashion product to a large extent. And in fact, my bet is that there will be many products that will not do much, but people will buy them because of that status or the fashion or the aesthetics. There will be this angle and the branding angle and all of this. So, but there's also hope for the industry that this element may actually then propagate devices which are still kind of primitive, but already people are, it's started rolling. And when you mentioned the Vision Pro, of course, that's kind of the exactly opposite end of this struggle to make it small and powerful. But the Vision Pro already is showing how much important for Apple was to at least give you the feeling that you see through in both ways, right? Okay, with the cameras, that's not only Apple, that's many others. But they made it look like ski goggles, and you actually can display kind of the face or a glimpse of the face on it. And it's really strong. And there is the break, like my son is coming at home with just the cameras on the Meta Quest. It's kind of strange. Do you see me or not? But the goggles feel like, the person sees through. So this contact with the reality was extremely important, and that's of course a requirement at the end for the glasses. I'm sure there will be many products, many types of products in between. Like we have a desktop PCs up to smartwatch, right? So there will be this whole range.
Yes.
But the glasses will be by far the biggest market, even if before they do something really super useful.
I want to backtrack a second, because so you said a lot of interesting thing, and I think the form factor and how we're gonna evolve, how is this gonna evolve, is something that I really want to go back to. But before that, there is another important point, and that is the digital content, right? In a sense, our eyes, there is something in between, in a way, and then there is this impression, this feeling that there is something in our own environment or virtual. So what are the properties for obtaining high quality, believable, if you would say, digital content?
So, well, I don't know what you mean exactly by that, but if you want to have really
let me explain. So, I mean, one thing is, for example, it could be as simple sometimes as the resolution, the resolution. Yeah. Sometimes it's about transparency. Sometimes it could be about the color brightness. So there are many things, and I was curious for you to expand on that, since I believe that you've got a lot of experience in defining what are the properties of high-quality digital content.
Yes, I think that everybody thinks that it's the field of view, that it doesn't have edges, and it's the high resolution and similar. But I think what is underestimated, and what is maybe even most important, is that kind of the matching with the real environment. So that the lights have the same white balance, have the same angles, have the highlights, and the same highlights like the real objects. And we are experimenting with that, So you have the same light. We actually can walk with the real light, and then we have some kind of the same, but in a virtual environment. When it behaves identically, it's just like boom. It becomes way more real. Our eyes and our brain, I said how sophisticated device it is, but in reality, it analyzes kind of these things. It's really extracts very little from that. And so what I described is matching with the real world, the same colors, the same light. There is this diffused light coming from top or whatever, is what gives you that feeling of, yeah, that's real. The other question is, do we want it to feel real?
Oof, that's a very good one. What's your impression?
That there is this problem with the uncanny valley, right? That the more something becomes real, and at one point you get so close that it becomes scary, like a robots, right? When they become like humans, then it becomes scary. I think it was even a request for, at least from some companies, they told me, when they were doing industrial applications, they actually had to do it different. That it's obvious that some object is virtual because you could confuse it. And well, I think there will be space for both, some interfaces, because the other thing how you can avoid this matching with the reality is make the object glowing.
I just wanted to have a quick break to remind you that the recording of these episodes and many more great conversation with incredible experts are available on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Just head over to my profile or in the episode description below and pick the platform you prefer. And now let's get back to the show.
Mm-hmm. When you make it glowing, it actually doesn't care much about the environment, so just kind of be done that way.
I think, that's a very interesting point. Probably we are in a way so far from that reality that where we say, oh, the digital content is so good that it basically looks so believable that it's real. That I think I've never thought personally about, do we want the digital content to be 100% real? Because my immediate response will be, why wouldn't we? But then we are in a stage where AI is creating like incredible video that you could kind of like hardly distinguish from the real one. And that's the moment when this becomes a possibility that you really say, well, yes, maybe we should find really a way to distinguish the digital content from, or in that case, the AI generated content, in this case, the digital content from the real world or the one is generated by human. That is indeed a very interesting point.
But I would mention also one more example, and that's a company, Tilt 5. It's not a real augmented reality because you need some surface where the image reflects.
I know them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tried it, and Carl Gutak, which is the butcher of all the technologies, nothing is good enough. He priced it a lot. And the resolution of that device is shockingly low. It's really, really like nothing. But the experience is really good. It's solidly fitting. So there is kind of hard to describe element which makes the experience really, really good. It's that you just like it. I don't know which other way I would describe it. First, there is the game. They have a big field of view, and that really it sticks to the reality. So that location matching is really, really good. So I think that's another very important element which I didn't mention.
Yeah, indeed. And that also brings another point that people very often forget, is that believability or immersion is not necessarily linked 100% with realism.
No,
right?
it's not. And if you look at the most successful games, they are actually very primitive visually, right? Like Minecraft and Roblox.
And I mean, I would also take it one way.
Graphic.
I mean, you have seen, for example, also probably on a device like the Quest, where you would wonder, there is someone in your own space and has the cartoony avatar, or then you are on a Vision Pro and then you have the avatar of someone behind a window, so to say. Then I think people might have different impression of what is really more immersive, or how do you experience that feeling of being together. Is that with the cartoony avatar that is still moves and somehow behave like a human, so to say, or that stylized but pretty good representation of someone's face? So I think that is also another thing, and probably something to take into account when, again, we bring this digital content into our own space. That is not just about to be super realistic. Maybe there is some extra magic that we need to bring in.
Yeah, but I would say that the human face is really a special case, because we are so trained to read the people's emotions from the eyes and expressions and so on. You don't get it. Maybe you can still mimic it in the avatar if it is kind of really coming kind of from some real information. But yeah, the human face is a very special case. Yeah. But I was surprised at some virtual conference with avatars that I really felt present at that point to some extent, more than I expected before.
Absolutely. Let's go back to one thing about CREAL. And I was wondering, so we're talking about the display, right? Super important. How does other aspect of this technology actually play a role? Like, for example, eye tracking or foveated rendering. So how does these pieces of technology come together?
Yeah, so for us, these are all complementary technologies. So they can improve what we do, but it's not necessary for it. So, but maybe I still would like to touch it, because that eye tracking, again, I say it's not really necessary for our display, but it can massively help to make the device more efficient and actually at the end get it to the form of the glasses. Because, okay, first, for any application developer, it's really good to know where the person is looking. Why not? It's maybe not good for privacy, but otherwise it's good. But for the visualization itself, that is another shocking element about the eye. Again, I prized how amazing organ it is, but then when you realize how actually shockingly bad it is, you really get shocked. So, we can actually read in this small field of view. Okay, I'm showing some coin half a meter in front of me. You can test your vision. Look at some word and try to read the words around without looking there. Or try to look at some huge label, or not look at some huge label, but read it when it is on the periphery of your vision. And you won't be able to read the gigantic letters. So our vision is actually very good in a very, very small area. And everything else is shockingly bad, and we don't know that because the brain is kind of creating the illusion of the quality. But to create that illusion, we don't have to display the pixels everywhere and we don't see them. We actually need probably very little of the information or visual information to stimulate the retina to create the same sensation. So the eye tracking is needed for it. And the foveation is the first step to it, because it just renders a bit more in the center of your gaze and less around, and you will never notice it, actually. That's really shocking on that.
So you would say basically that in this case, it's kind of an enabling technology for many, you included, that allows to then focus the processing power, I imagine, as well,
Exactly.
on one area. And then in order to do that, you need to know where the eye is looking. So only in the area where the eyes are looking, that's the moment that you can focus the user's focus, you can put the processing power and recreate the right effect.
Yes, I'm convinced that it is necessary piece for the ultimate AR, let's say the high performance in small form factor. And because everything, actually the key parameter that needs to be improved is the efficiency. Let's say the minimum of everything, a power, bandwidth, compute, per maximum of the impression. And you have to exploit all of these imperfections of us for that.
There is one other important point when we think about these AR glasses being, let's say, used everywhere and like as a, let's say, a fashion item almost, as you mentioned, and that is the outdoor, right? I'm not talking about bright environments. How do you solve this issue?
Yeah, like with the eye tracking or sensors, we don't really solve this issue. We do that piece, which is creating the digital image. But we see, we contribute to making it possible by having actually very high efficiency in the terms of how much light gets from the light source to your eye. So we can make that image very bright. But you don't want to necessarily overshine a sun, right? Or really bright environment. So I assume that there will be absolutely standard some part of dimming. Either you dim everything, or you may have a segmented dimming, which actually Magic Leap already has in the ML2, and it's pretty good actually. I was surprised how good it is.
Yeah, I've seen also some video where indeed that is like some, I think they call it active dimming. So they are basically able to identify where the lights come from, and they kind of like darken the screen in that specific area. Am I correct?
Yes. I would say that first active dimming is this, that you can tune only this everywhere, fully transparent, or everywhere bit like smart glasses. And a Magic Leap, I think they call it segmented dimming, that you have, it's not very high resolution, but you can exactly reduce the light from certain area and put the content there.
Right. And that's how you distinguish between a real expert like you and someone that tried to pieces all the pieces together. So great. Thanks for pointing that out, Thomas. So now there is another point, because you mentioned at the beginning that you started with something that is possible, that is feasible, because you wanted to make this kind of display accessible for companies, for example, that are building the final solution. Now, what about let's say, the hardware price, right? So what are the manufacturing limitation? Can you just throw as much money at it as possible, and it's a problem that is going to be solved? Or is just really the technology, the hardware itself, that is still not there?
Well, that's a difficult question, because obviously throwing money at things don't solve the questions. There needs to be really the creativity, the big jumps, the inventions, really the bright ideas, the eureka moments. But the money, of course, help that more people are involved in that and support the eureka moments. And the problem of the optics is that it's not the same like electronics, that you have a Moore's law and you know where it goes. Optics, that's some limitations much earlier. So the lenses and so on, to keep resolution, must have certain size. And then it's the power consumption. It's just difficult to squeeze all of it to really small glasses. But people are creative creatures, so you really start solving this. What I mentioned, this foveation, you really can massively reduce, let's say, what is needed to deliver the same what the Apple Vision Pro is doing right now. Just don't need this displays, don't need that much compute, but it needs to be done. And it needs to be done also step by step. There is the business problem that a lot of these projects actually stop because they didn't deliver. There was some promise, and the company above it cut the money, fired people. So there are many additional elements. Startups are actually very good in that because they are focused, and often it goes to nowhere. But there are many of them, like us, and some will contribute, some will make it well. And the cost, of course, that's more like a requirement than answer. It must fit into certain cost which people are willing to pay. Fortunately, glasses are quite expensive thing already. Not all of them, but people are willing to pay if they have money for that. So adding some display on top of it, you can think about it, if the moment it does as much as the smartphone, well, then you will pay as much for the smartphone and the glasses and maybe laptop. And people don't use laptops anymore often. So I think the acceptable price at one point will be really high if it does the job. And there is and otherwise the hardware can be quite cheap because you get really a lot of things small. So the silicon chips actually are more as proportional price to the size and the technology on it. But here you kind of necessarily have to have it small and kind of a smart. So in our case, we will really target the price of the display below $100 or in high volumes or $200 in lower volumes. Right now, it costs tens of thousands.
Well, we're gonna get there. And I want to know what's from CREAL while we go through to the end of this. But before doing that, I also had a question regarding current or potential use cases. So you mentioned, for example, in the, let's say, healthcare industry. So can you share maybe some other cases in which people are already experimenting with your display technology?
So the first one is really, let's say, multiple applications related to vision care industry. So I will repeat it because if you have a glasses or someone in the audience have glasses, you know how you get your refraction. It's a century-old process. Someone is interrogating you. We do all of it digitally. We can put you into tailored environment. You feel you are in the car and so on. And we can actually apply digitally again very complex lenses on your eyes, including like the progressive lenses and so on. It was not possible at all with existing displays and so on. So the value of that is pretty high for this market. It's cost insensitive and so on. It can be quite bulky. That's why we do it. And I cannot speak much about with whom we work and more details, but
that's good.
That was our lowest hanging fruit. Then we provided it to many research groups. So it's actually a pretty good source of money for us in this development stage. We are also educating people about what it does. Some articles appear about us, and then of course the main ambition is to get our display technology to really mainstream products made by the big tech. And that's a big part of our activity, requesting what they actually really want, then get the specifications, try to, change it, which is, by the way, changing also with the time. But, we got different requirements last year from the same company and this year, and catch up, and then license the technology because they will never rely on a startup to provide the physical hardware. They will just try to make it themselves. So that's the biggest ambition, to get it in this way on the eyes of really, really many people.
So when we look at that transition, right, from something that is very specialized for the eye care industry to something that is mainstream, how do you feel this is going to evolve in time? Because the first step seemed to be to put mixed reality on VR glasses, right? I think everybody's basically taking that steps to add more of the physical environment to these immersive experiences. There are other people like HoloLens that are, again, kind of like in parallel, have done, or Magic Leap that are doing another technology. So how do you think it's going to evolve in time to reach that vision?
Yeah, so the two perspectives, how it evolves for us. It's kind of independent or different story than how it develops for the industry. So maybe first, I think that I mentioned the industry. First, everybody was expecting, even the people which are skeptical, were expecting that some AR will come already years ago. It really is way more difficult, especially the display simply don't work. Drain battery or something like that. And the second thing which happened is that AI came much earlier than even the most optimistic people thought. And the current trend and the vision, and I fully support that vision, is that the AR glasses will be the absolutely main human AI interface because they can see with us, right? Put things into context. You can't have a better interface than that. So, and at the same time, it made the displayed information more valuable without kind of a rich visualization. So it became more feasible. So this is happening right now, and I think that first glasses will be relatively simple in terms of like the visual quality, but already will provide the utility you really want, do a lot of things for you, like your personal assistant. And what we are bringing into it is really that kind of a vision comfort aspect, because first, our image, the moment you get to 3D visualization, is simply better. You don't want to screw up your eyes by looking at kind of wrongly stimulating images whole day. You really have to solve that issue. Okay, or you just don't display 3D, just a flat.
And and I just want to, because this is exactly, I think, what we are. So we see some company building, like, for example, Humane is building this pin that is attached to their thing. And that is eyes, there is a camera that is adding that interface. And it does project some 3D, for example, on the user's hands. It adds some interactions. And then there is Meta, of course, with the Ray-Ban glasses, right? That, as you said, it does see, but still doesn't project 3D. So the point is probably merging in some way these two modalities of capturing the world around you and inputting information, being, for example, with, again, added digital content. So your, let's say, idea or thought is we're going to see something that does a little bit more, for example, than what the Ray-Ban from Meta do. Am I understanding correctly?
It's clearly, the next step is to provide some visual information on top of it. And the Humane pin you mentioned, it's one of two beautiful examples of the application where glasses would do it much better, because here you have a pin and projecting it on the hand. Well, you would just have a display in the glasses, which most people already have. And the second example, and I would even say better, is the Rabbit R1, because they really explain that kind of the full action mechanisms. You ask for pizza, and it does all the job, maybe show you the pizza in the process. That's it, right? And if the glasses can do it, look at things in the fridge or wherever, tell you what to cook, what to buy. That's exactly that idea of what the AI glasses will be doing. But it will not be the last device. Like the smartphone is not the last device we ever had. Like the telegraph was not the last device we ever had. The glasses will be improving as well, maybe until we don't have them at all. But you will want to have if the product, let's say with the same form factor and similar price, will provide much richer visual information, you will just buy that. And that's not the only problem which people are in this industry are solving. The second is fashion. You need to look somehow. You need to have a choice, fitting, and the prescription correction. And this is a big problem for most displays, to make it kind of aesthetic with the right prescription correction for you. And in this, we are actually very good.
Exciting, Thomas. I really feel excited, just listening about you and see how this is actually all gonna merge together. Because I think also that when people start understanding that what we need is not just having rabbits and stuff popping up all around us, but just focus on the potential valuable use cases that having, again, this AI technology, as well as a way to display digital content in our environment or in some form, right? Because at this point, we don't know how that's exactly going to be. But when these two merge together, that's the moment that we really start seeing some incredible value that's really transformative for this technology. Because then we are not bound to our screen anymore, right? To this screen. Then at that point, we'll be able to get a value and interact with the real world, with digital content in a way that is just unprecedented. We just need to understand that we don't need all digital content around us and all super sort of interactive and hand pinch. Maybe we just don't need hand interaction at that point, right? Because that is the other thing, is that, but people immediately start thinking about the end goal. And I think we should start building up slowly, cautiously, and meaningfully towards that vision, instead of just saying, this is too early. no, it's not gonna work. Just my thoughts. Sorry, I got you got me in a rant.
No, that's exactly like that. But the development will be happening in parallel. Like this AI, AR glasses, that's the mainstream. You get it on most eyes, but there will be the whole set of products. Like still today, you have desktop computers, you have laptops, tablets, smartphones. So the same will be happening. And then many really specialized devices for really medical applications, industry. I think one big one will be this kind of office productivity device. The smart glasses will not get us out into the fields and forests immediately. We will still be indoors. And indoors, you are, let's say, closer to computer, which can feed it, or network. With richer data, you can change battery, or you don't expect to use it really whole day, just like temporarily. But this can help you to be, effective, productive, or entertain more. So, and the smart glasses would not be able to provide this. Another category of product.
You made a very good point. So I'm curious now, what's coming from CREAL this year? So what's your plan for 2024, and what can we expect?
So we are actually preparing a big announcement. We did pre-announcement of it by the end of the year, because after 6 years of gradual development, some 3 years ago, we decided to really design our own chip to make the display really commercially viable. Not only like a technology demonstrator, expecting someone will take it from us in that form. So we are right now really finishing a project that is already, let's say, you can make something which looks still like bulkier glasses, but already glasses. And we are ready then to start shipping it to companies that, need to change it a bit and build the product around it. So it's a big step that display is commercially viable in terms of price, performance.
So you're talking basically, if I understand, a reference device that then other company can use to build their own product.
Exactly.
Incredible. So Tomas, I'm really looking forward to it, and please give me a shout out when this announcement is going to be out, because maybe we can have you again here at the show and keep discussing how the journey went, because I think that hardware it's going to be it's a key enabler. I'm always a big fan of content when we think about this, but especially when it's about creating this true vision for augmented reality. I think that the hardware it still has a way to go, and I'm pretty glad that today we had the chance to talk with you.
Exactly, it was great to talk with you, really.
Absolutely great. Thank you very much, Tomas. Best of luck, and I'll see you maybe later this year.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you very much for listening in. If you enjoyed the conversation, remember to head to YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts for more insightful conversation revolving around XR and AI. And if you like the show, please leave a rating on Spotify. It really helps me keep doing this and shine the spotlights on the latest and greatest founders and creative in XR and AI. Till next time.